Hey everyone, Jay here, and today I'm going to be giving you a brief rundown and review of some of the upgrades that I have on my motorized bicycle, starting with the spring-loaded, engine-mounted chain tensioner. This one is great, and I'll tell you why. It allows for variable tension in the chain, and that's something you'll see as you're riding, that the chain wants to move up and down. It's just its natural tendency is to move up and down. I think it allows for better performance when the chain is able to do what it's supposed to do, as opposed to using the fixed tension chain tensioner that gets mounted onto the chainstay here. It does its job. I mean, it guides the chain through, but it doesn't allow for variable tension. And from an aesthetic standpoint, it looks like shit. It's a yellow wheels. I can't imagine what the reason was for not putting a black guide wheel on here. It's yellow, almost white in some other kits. And once you get the grease, dirt, and grime from these chains on here, it looks like a dirt-covered piece of plastic. It just looks ridiculous. So definitely recommend upgrading from this to this. It looks better too. Next, I have the 6cc Fred head. It's great for keeping the motor cool, especially when I'm going up hills. The engine doesn't bog down the way it used to with the stock cylinder head. So make sure you get a Fred head too. There's a lot of them out there, but I think that the craftsmanship that goes into these is just second to none. There's some imitations out there that are $20 to $30 cheaper, but is $20 to $30 really going to make or break you? If you're going to, upgrade these motors and, put better parts on them, just put the best part you can on it. Really no sense in trying to save a few dollars here and there when the difference in quality is substantial. So make sure it's a Fred head. I mean, I'm sure there's others out there. This is just the one that I've seen is the most reputable. And the guy who makes them is very reputable. And the shipping was really fast. He shipped it out the same day that I ordered it, and it was at my house in a couple of days. So that's my personal recommendation. And in conjunction with the head, I also recommend getting a high-performance CDI box. And the reason for that is that the CDI box that came with the kit, this piece that goes on top of the spark plug here, was constantly coming off with the vibrations of the motor. With the spark plugs, you can actually unscrew the cap on the spark plug, exposing threads, where this actually holds down onto the threads and kind of locks down on there really well. And it's not coming off while I'm riding. That's great. It gives you a solid electrical connection all around. Probably asking yourself why I'm still using the stock exhaust. Well, there's a reason for that. I did have a high-performance BBR tuning short shot exhaust that was about the same in length and position as this one. The only difference is it had no baffle of any kind on it, so it was incredibly loud. It was like riding a Harley Davidson or something that just had no muffler at all. And it was hurting my ears to the point where my ears would be ringing after every ride. And also, if you're trying to be inconspicuous somewhat while riding these bikes, that's definitely not the exhaust you want to go with. So I took it off for the sake of my ears and put the stock exhaust back on for the time being. And to give myself a little bit of better performance while using this exhaust, a little thing you guys can do is unscrew this right here and pull this piece out of the exhaust and cut about 2 to 3 inches off of the stinger that's inside of the exhaust. Typically it comes up to about here, and you can cut it. There's these sections inside the exhaust, so you can cut it as low as you want. I cut mine to about here actually, and I noticed a little bit of better performance as far as low end torque. And for the time being, it does its job, and it's keeping my ears from ringing while I ride the bike. So yeah, that'll be another video once I upgrade. Next, I have the SR Suntour fork with 120 millimeter travel. And the reason I went with the 120 millimeter travel was that the fork is a little longer than a fork that has about 80 to 100 millimeters travel. So that brings the front end of the bike up off the ground a few inches. And in doing so, I'm preventing the tank from holding less fuel or trapping less fuel in this curved section, or the belly of the tank, as I like to call it. And when that happens, you can actually run out of fuel, and the fuel stays trapped here and won't make it back to the petcock. Now, that's not to say that I don't still have a little bit of fuel collecting in this area, but not nearly as much as when the bike sat lower with the original fork. And the original fork is right here. It's garbage. Can't adjust it. It's a dual crown fork, and for me, the upgrade was a safety thing. It was just all about the hazard that it presented. It was cheap, and it was wobbling around, and it wasn't very good quality. So, yeah, that was basically what prompted me to upgrade the fork. Not every upgrade on here is about aesthetics. It's about safety and efficiency of the motor itself. And next, I'm going to show you and make the recommendation of replacing any and all Phillips head or flathead screws on these motors and bikes with Allen heads. And I'll tell you why. One issue that I ran into was that the screw that went right here, I'm holding a flashlight in the camera with a hand, so right here, this was a Phillips head screw that had stripped out, and I wasn't aware of it. So I was getting some blowback from the motor. Actually, I get blowback every time I ride the motor, and I'm constantly getting half-spent fuel. Veering off topic a little bit, but yeah, I get half-spent fuel right here. You can kind of see some residual fuel that drips down front, or blows back into the filter, and then drips down and collects right here. So yeah, I'm going to be doing a reed valve upgrade, and I'll put that on video too. So back to the Allen head. I replaced virtually everything on here that was Phillips head screw with Allen heads. And like I said, I had a Phillips head screw that came with the NT carb. It stripped out, and when I had blowback, it blew the carburetor right off the intake manifold. And I was doing about 35 miles an hour on a straight away, and yeah, it blew off, and I realized that it had stripped. They were cheap screws, and another thing is, with Phillips heads, you can't get the necessary torque to tighten things down as well. So another spot where I upgraded to an Allen head was right here on the clutch arm. This used to be a Phillips head. I replaced that with what I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, is an M3. You can get these at Lowe's or Home Depot. Yeah, I put that in there, and it just makes it easier to tighten things down and get the necessary torque, and without stripping out the end of the screw or whatever. So one other spot I did that with is the little screw that keeps the flower nut in place right here. You can see there is now an Allen head screw in there that is, I believe, an M3. I just cut it down to the length with my Dremel to the same length as the little flathead screw that was in there. And like I said, another reason for converting everything to Allen heads is because I have a little toolkit that I carry with me. And the less tools I can carry, like flathead and Phillips head screwdrivers, the better. It takes up less space in my bag and my toolkit, and it's a little less weight. So, yeah. And lastly, the seat that I have. I used to have a regular standard bicycle seat. In fact, it was the seat that this bike came with. And the vibrations from the motor were, and I'm sure many of you have experienced this, was wreaking havoc on my genitalia. The vibrations made it so it was just an incredibly uncomfortable ride. You could still feel some discomfort after riding with the regular bike seat on here afterwards. This one is it's a no nose bicycle seat. You can get them anywhere, online, in store. I recommend it. It's got really good padding, cushioning, so it lessens and dampens the vibrations. Well, I guess that's it for now. Subscribe to my channel, and if you guys have any questions, just leave your questions in the comment box, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right, thanks.